Welcome to the technical briefing for 23rd of March. In this update, we're going to cover some Basalte product news that was all recently launched at an event in Belgium. So we'll get started. It was a fantastic event. It was called Showtime. This was done in lieu of Light and Building, with Light and Building being obviously postponed. Basalte felt they had enough product and they were so excited about what they wanted to launch that they held an exclusive event in Ghent in Belgium. It was all very last minute. They had to kind of pull out all the stops to make it happen, but it was fantastic and a really good energy and great to particularly see Klaus presenting his products and yeah, just getting some of the kind of design intent behind a few of the products and what they're trying to achieve with it. So it was a really good event. So the big product, well, the first product, shall we say, is the Miro Remote. Now this was launched at ISC, so some people may have seen it at ISC, and it's not the missing piece because the Basalte Home solution is very functional already, but it was one of the pieces that really needed to happen for it to become a fully fledged control system. And with the advance of this remote, it really does make Basalte Home, something that could replace a lot of control systems in the home, not just on the KNX side, not just for music streaming, but also for audio video control as well. It's very elegant. It's machined out of a solid piece of aluminium. It feels very nice in the hand. It's nicely weighted. All the buttons are fairly accessible, and it does sit quite nicely. It's got a 2-inch touchscreen at the top, which can be used to display things like cover art, for menus, for things like, as you can see in the picture, changing a dimmer, a light circuit. But the other thing it does is it enables the button set to be reduced. So there's 20 laser engraved buttons. They're made out of aluminium as well, so they're going to be very durable, with laser inscription that won't wear off. And they've really focused on what buttons do you need? What buttons need to be accessible? And they've done that to try and make it usable. It's all about reducing the complexity so you can easily see what you need to control and all the buttons are within reach. If you want more functionality, like maybe the red, green, blue, yellow buttons on a Sky remote, you can have them in the touch screen and have them, hidden away most of the time except for where you need them. Because of that, it is a very elegant control. There's a central joystick which can be used either to navigate the touch screen, so you don't have to, touch it. You can just with your thumb navigate through the touch screen and select functions there, but it can also be used for an on-screen display for changing a menu on the TV. It uses Thread, the remote, which is a mesh network. Obviously, Thread is the Google one that the Nest solutions, Nest products use, and it's done via a USB node. So if you're using the existing core server, which doesn't have an aerial, there's a USB node that you plug in. It's in the same shape as the Basalte puck, and it's a magnetic. It's got a cable magnetic base, so you can put it outside of the rack. And you can use the same node to extend the system. It works as a repeater, increasing the size of that mesh network. The actual protocol is a specific Basalte one called Beam, which sits on the top of the Thread kind of transport layer. It uses Qi wireless charging, which is again another standardized system. So if you've got a wireless charger integrated into your sofa or into some furniture that you're using for a Samsung phone, for example, it will also work for the Basalte remote. And if you're not doing it that way, Basalte will also have a charger, a base, which is just a flat plate of aluminium and different finishes that you can sit the remote on. It seems simple, but it is actually a very, very, the remote just sits in the hand really nicely. It's very, very just simple and easy to use. And in a way is really one of the first remotes for a KNX system, given that the server solution from Basalte is natively KNX. It's very, very simple in the studio software to add the remote, and then you've got remote control over your home without having to go via another system or use an interface. So it's going to be available from the end of the year. All dates are kind of in question now a little bit in terms of what's happening worldwide in terms of supply lines and development and having people off sick. So take everything with a grain of salt, but they are trying to get this out as soon as possible and are currently looking at the end of the year. So the remote is the start, but there's a really big step forward in terms of Basalte's product solution, and that's the Mini. The Core Mini takes all of the functionality that we have on the existing core server, but takes away the CobraNet streaming. So at the moment, if you're going to use the S4 core, that enables you to control the whole home, all of the KNX, but also have a high fidelity music streaming solution with the CobraNet, CobraNet being used to control amplifiers and speakers across the whole home. And the kind of the quality of that has always been the focus, using high quality music streams, using, decent amplification, using powered speakers. It's always been a real focus of the system. But Basalte are quick to accept that not every project needs, that. Not every time, not every project wants that music streaming. Sometimes you just want to control your KNX installation. And that's where the Mini Core comes in. So it has all the functionality in terms of being able to use Studio to program it, the number of, there's no limit to the number of rooms or functions or objects. You can do all the logic. It works with the Alley and the app. It just doesn't work with the CobraNet, the Asano music solution within Basalte. It's got the integrated aerial for the remote. So using the Core Mini with the Basalte remote, you've got a very, very simple control solution for both your KNX system in the home, but also for any audio video devices, because you can still do, you could still control a TV or a matrix switch, things like that. You just don't have the music streaming side of it. So it's direct KNX connection, so it's hardwired to the KNX installation, and will be programmed in the normal Studio software. So it's it's reducing the complexity and the cost of the Basalte Home solution to make it applicable on more and more projects. And they're really focusing on that. It's about making it accessible for more and more projects, as opposed to the kind of core solution, which is more of a premium product. So a very interesting development. It's quite small, definitely small enough to sit behind a TV if you've got obviously some form of enclosure for it, given that TVs are so thin now. But yeah, it is a real step forward. Very simple, and I think really opens up the Basalte solution to more and more projects. But a lot of projects still have music, right? If you've got a Core Mini and you've got a job, but you still need some control of music, how do you go about that? That's why Basalte have released Sonos integration, which gives you, uses the standard Sonos API, which everybody has to use. So you've got control over favorites and transport control. There's no way to get more functionality than that. And it's able to control up to 4 Sonos zones. So with the Mini Core, you could have 4 zones of Sonos music all controlled together. Now, whilst the API is the limit of how much control you have over Sonos, because the Basalte app and the Alley, in terms of the room controller, because of that display is very, very music centric. Music is a big part of the solution when you use the fully fledged Basalte Home Asano solution. The integration with Sonos feels a lot more natural than it does on some other solutions. A lot of other solutions within the KNX world, you've got a product that's designed for controlling the lighting, the shading, the heating, and then you've added some Sonos integration, some music control. This is the other way around. The visualization within Basalte started by controlling music and then added that KNX functionality separately. So it does feel very natural. It feels like a lot higher level of integration than you see on some other solutions. So it's going to work on the new Core Mini, but it's also going to work on the existing core server. And that opens up the possibility to have hybrid systems where you're using the existing Basalte amplifiers and speakers as part of the Asano solution, in the rooms where you want high fidelity audio, where you want that design element on your speakers, where there really is a focus on quality. But then you've got some other rooms that maybe don't need that level of fidelity. Maybe it's a kid's bedroom, or maybe you want to have wireless speakers, might be speakers in the garden. And you can have Sonos for those zones, up to 4 Sonos zones, integrated as part of the wider Basalte solution. And that's interesting, I think. I think that gives a lot more flexibility to the Basalte Home solution, and really opens up, a lot more kind of project design possibilities, if you like. So quite a big step forward, and a real recognition from Basalte that not everybody is after that high-end audio. For a lot of people, Sonos is perfectly suitable, so they're going to support it. So moving into the keypad range, I just wanted to touch on the Sentido quickly. This has been in the market for 12 years, and when it was released, it set a new standard for both design and functionality. It really was an eye-opener as to what could happen. Now it's a very common scene design. It's something that a lot of manufacturers have copied, and of course that's one of the highest compliments, people copying your product and taking it in a different direction. But 12 years ago, there really wasn't that level of development in terms of KNX keypads and options. It was all very, very stuck to rockers and buttons. And when it was released, it just did really push the boundaries of what was possible, mainly at the design, but also the functionality. It was the first keypad to have an integrated thermostat, for example, and the multi-touch and the changeable LEDs and the different scene functions really did push the boundaries. But after 12 years, it has been copied a lot. There is a lot more solutions around it. So Basalt felt it was time to have another go, to see what they could achieve. Now, this doesn't, the products we're about to see don't replace the Sentido. The Sentido absolutely has a place in the market, as does the Deseo. It's the best-selling Basalt product and is not going anywhere. But Basalt and Klaus wanted to really push the boundaries around aesthetics and introduce a new aesthetic for keypads. So they've done that with the Fibonacci. Fibonacci is based on the Fibonacci sequence, which is related to the golden ratio, which is where the different, each side, it's found in nature a lot, each side of the two numbers previous equal the number. So everything is aesthetically matched and it looks correct. Now we see the golden ratio on a lot of things. It's used in some of the best looking buildings. It's found in nature. A lot of plants to kind of default to this Fibonacci sequence because it just kind of makes sense, and it makes sense in terms of aesthetics. So they've used that as the design influence for the product. It works in a similar way to the Sentido in terms of the functionality, but has a completely different look and style. And one of the big things they wanted to introduce is these labeling fields. So where we have these little black strips, that's an interchangeable labeling field, which is for the integrator to change. It's not something the customer will change. You order it from Basalt and it comes, and you pop the faceplate off and you can unscrew it from the back and interchange it. But it makes it a lot clearer and simpler what to do with the product. It's backlit and it will light up as you come towards the device. So that will just give an indication of what the buttons do. And then you've got two different versions, a 2-button or a 4-button. Now the 4-button, which is these three lower images here, the top and control buttons work very similar to the Sentido. That's controlling either individual functions or it's maybe a lights up and a lights down. On the 2-button, which is a small picture here, this is something that's going to be released in September, so we don't have full imagery yet. This side panel is inactive. It's there it's there just as to complete the look and the design. It's just using the 2 main buttons. It's obviously a lot taller than most keypads, and that is because of the golden ratio, but also it's because of the it's because of the golden ratio, but it means it can work on the American boxes, which are used throughout a lot of the world. Australia and New Zealand use that J box, that taller box, and it fits on the EU box. So there's a back plate, and then the unit connects to that. So it's a different look. It's pushing the boundaries of what a keypad should look like, and it's introducing new design concepts that's based on, a known aesthetic in terms of how the balance of the different surfaces. And yeah, I think it's really intriguing. It has all the same multi-touch functionality. It has the temperature sensor. It has the regulation in the same way the Sentido. So in terms of commissioning and programming, it works in a very simple way, in a way that people are familiar with, just introduces a new design element. But one keypad wasn't enough. Basalt have also released the Chopin, which is the first time Basalt have gone down the mechanical rocker route. Now, this was driven by a desire to innovate and do things a bit differently, but also a need to simplify. And for some installations or some project types, there needs to be a more direct driver as to what the keypad does. And having a rocker clearly communicates what it does. It could be hotels, it could be apartments, it could be rooms or buildings where you have a lot of different people using it. They're not just the same people all the day who would be used to the functionality that you might find on the Sentido or the Fibonacci, or in fact the Deseo. This is bringing down that level of complexity to really, really simple functions. So the rockers, you can either have one rocker, which would be wide, taking up the same amount of space, or it can be split into two rockers, and they're bidirectional. So you've got an up point and a down point, contact points at each of them. It fits in. The levers can be chrome, gold, or black aluminium, and they're backlit with an RGB LED. The levers are actually quite. They're quite reassuring. There is a real. They look like they might be a bit flimsy, but they're definitely not. In terms of the way they operate, they're quite they've got a nice amount of resistance, and they definitely feel like a good quality rocker. It has integrated temperature and regulation, so just to the kind of standard you'd expect from Basalt, and the frame can be in any Basalt finish. So it could be a one gang frame, but it can also be integrated into the multi-gang frame solution, either maybe as a 4 rockers or using a USB socket or a normal socket as seen here. So it really extends the functional range of Basalt. We've now got multiple different keypads that will fit at different price points in the installation and offer different level of functionality, but you can certainly do it in all the same design. You might have a very simple keypad by the door, which gives you an on-off for the building as a rocker, but then you're using Sentido elsewhere in the property. You might use Fibonacci in the maybe in the living area because you want that design element, but you want a simpler functionality throughout the building. So it really is expanding the product range and taking what Basalt have been known for in terms of quality finishes and that high level of software functionality, and opening it up to more and more projects and more customers. Again, going to be available from September, but all of this needs a little bit of we need to just all the dates may shift given what's going on. The other thing that's been released and it's happening now is software, is the Basalt Live solution. So Basalt have just pushed an update to the servers, which means that over the next few days you'll be able to enable remote connection to existing Basalt installations, and then you're able to program and support them remotely, and also give customers remote access. So that's something that has already been released, but they're just in the process of pushing that out to market as we speak. So all of this is it's a big shift from Basalt in terms of they're moving more and more into controlling the home. They're making their products more and more relevant for more and more customers, more and more projects. And this has coincided with a bit of a rebrand with the Basalt website. Hopefully some of you have already seen it. They've made it really, really simple and lots of imagery around projects, lots of much clearer description of products. There's still the technical stuff on there, but a pretty big rebrand for Basalt. And they're really, it's all about simplifying how we control homes, making it easier to use the space you live in, and doing that with a high quality finish and a huge amount of functionality. So check out the Basalt website, loads of really good content on there. Right, thank you everybody. Thanks for attending this short Ivory Egg technical briefing on the Basalt products. Lots of links below to more information on our website and also on the Basalt website. Thank you very much.